Hello, everyone. Good evening. We
Woohoo!
are in
Hey,
our time zone. Hello, hello, hello. I'm here with
Hello.
the amazing Jacopo, not this way, Jacopo and Francesco.
Ciao.
Guys,
ciao.
how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Fine, fine.
Fantastic.
Great to be here.
Yes, so we are here for another meetup of an evening with series. You might notice we should have been 4 people. Hin unfortunately had to cancel, so it's the 3 of us. We are going to have a nice conversation about extreme contracts and decision making with our 2 experts and trainers. Now, why are we here? Before I let the experts do the talking. As you might know, Francesco is currently writing his book on decision making for software development teams. We did a couple, at least 4 or 5 live streaming events this year already, as we were uncovering his book and understanding, the reasons why this was a relevant topic. And it happens that Francesco is also including some content on extreme contracts in his book, which is the topic about which Jacopo is an expert. And Jacopo is also the author of a book titled Extreme Contracts. And Jacopo is currently working on the English edition of the book in collaboration with Francesco. So you see, it all makes sense in the end. And so we are here today to literally explore the topic a bit more. What we like to do in Avanscoperta is literally put smart people together and see what happens. So we are here for that today. I know there's a lot of you watching from home, so thanks for being here. If it was a long day, we hope it will be a long day at work. We hope this will be like a nice ending. Of course, you are free and more than welcome to drop your comments on the YouTube chat. We are gonna make this chat more interactive with Jacopo and Francesco reading your questions. We did add a last-minute rule before we started the meetup, which was not talk for longer than 3 minutes. So my 3 minutes are over. Now it's all for Francesco and Jacopo.
Jacopo, you are muted. You are talking, but...
Sorry. After you, I was saying Stratz.
Okay. So what I would like to start with is why, in my opinion, contracts are so important for software developers, regardless if they are freelance or if they work for a company, okay? If they work for a software delivery company, okay? Not for example, a product company. Because it's quite strange when I talk about this topic with other developers, they say, it's not my problem, okay? It's not my area for expertise, or it's not my concern at all. We have a sales department, we have a legal department about that. But it's not that. It's completely a developer problem to know what kind of contract the company that we work for use. And I think it's because of the famous Conway law. Okay, I don't remember the exact statement. Okay, but in a nutshell, your code will be a mirror of your communication structure. Okay, so the form of your team, if you work with silos, if you work with a top-down management or an horizontal management, will reflect in the code. That's the point of Conway's law in a nutshell. And contracts, being a binding agreement between 2 parts, are a very, very important part of a communication structure. And so they will influence the life of a developer. That's the main point about, I think we are talking about this stuff here this evening. I don't know what you think about it, Jacopo.
Well, this is definitely, I agree with this point of view from this perspective. So the first answer that I would give to answer the question, why are contracts important in the developer's life, is it's barely basically boils down to I mean, we have passed like now almost 20 years discussing the process, agile process, and the way we develop code and the way we act after we have received the specification. And maybe even we can discuss how we receive those specifications and how we write them down. But in my experience, at least, and we shared at least a part of it, Francesco, I've always observed that talking about the process after the agreement has been done, it's too late. So we are trying to discuss a negotiable scope. We're trying to discuss a budget that is iteratively spent on a shared goal that is spilled step by step, iteration, sprint by sprint. And the overall agile message is this. And then we can discuss this up to a point that is basically the room left allowed by the contract, by the agreement that we signed maybe 3, 6, 9 months before that action. And that is basically constraining all of our decisions afterwards. And this, I think, this is the main contact point between extreme contracts that we should introduce before we go on with this conversation, and the decision making that your book is all about. So basically, the contracts are decisions, policies, decisions that are written down on a piece of paper, and they will act as the boundaries of the collaboration that you can enable, that you can empower, maybe. And so this is the first reason why contracts are important to developers. And then secondly, after the game has begun, I agree with you. There is another topic, which is that the Conway's law that you mentioned, that actually you mentioned the code, but we can bring it more and to an end-to-end perspective, and all your services and products will reflect in their structure, the structure of your communication inside the company. So it's just not just the code, but everything about the user experience. And so I think that's why, for these two reasons, contracts are basically one of the key points to discuss, in spite of the common interpretation of the Agile Manifesto, whose third statement is about collaboration with the customer over contract negotiation. And I think that's true. And that's the reason why we want to negotiate contracts that allow us to collaborate sincerely with a true spirit with the customer. So that's my point. And I mean, we can discuss, for example, the full range of decision making, how contracts should take place in the full range of decision making. I mean, so that we can broaden the concept of decision making and then go back to contracts after we have introduced extreme contracts again.
Yeah. For example, you touched a very important point when you talked about the room. Okay, the boundaries. The contracts are the boundaries of your a part of the boundaries of your decision-making variables. As an example, if you work with a fixed price contract, you know that every decision that you will make during, I don't know, the next 6 months, the next 6 months of contract, should be shaped also by that contract. If you don't do that, as a developer teams, okay, you are not looking at an important variable. Okay, you can create, you can start working with a very, very complex architecture, and then at half of the work, you understood that you burn up all the budget, and you cannot fix that because you have a piece of paper that is a binding contract. So the point is that if you don't keep the contracts, the kind of contracts inside your decision-making process as a developer team, you will fail because you have a lot of boundaries and as you say, a box that you need to move in, and you are not considering it. Because when you talk with developers, most of the times, they literally don't know what kind of contracts they have with their clients, or what kind of other boundaries written down on a piece of paper, and they are blind. That's the point. Yeah. If you don't know that, you are blind, and if you are blind, perhaps you making also good decision, okay, but it's luck. It's not engineering.
Yep. So let me just, I'm trying to look for a presentation that I could deliver in a few minutes, but while I look for it, I'm wondering, and down to technical specifications of your code, how can you provide us with an example of how contracts and agreements among providers and customers, or among partners, or even within different departments of a single corporate, can influence the technical architecture of the code? I mean, do you have good examples maybe in your book, or can you describe? I mean, it's nice to share some.
Yeah, there is a thing that I noticed in these years when I started looking at it with a critical eye. So say, okay, so there is a pattern here, and the pattern, the most important thing to understand is that most of the time is a bias. Okay, you are not doing that deliberately, but if you are working with a fixed price contract, the team knows it. The team is often overprotective. Okay, they don't try new stuff. They don't write the perfect architecture. For example, they would like to use a microservices, but they know that the microservices could be an over budget, so they don't even try. Okay, because people are afraid of changes, or are afraid of what happens when you have a fixed budget, a fixed scope contract. On the other hand, when you have a time and materials contract, when you don't have strict boundaries, okay, the clients know how much you cost for every day. You have a very, very large amount of days. It's completely the opposite. You see that teams start to build unuseful, how can I say, artifacts. Okay, they start building with microservices from day one. They don't have any line of code, but they have a very, very perfect architecture, an end-to-end test suite ready, but they don't produce any kind of value because they don't have the pressure by the contract. Okay, so this is of course they are two opposite, and I'm also exaggerating, but that's exactly the point. Sometimes I saw that this stuff happened in a real world scenario, and it was completely unaware. And the teams that I worked with were completely unaware of this stuff.
Do you think automated tests are skipped more with fixed price contracts or with time and material contracts?
It depends. I think that unit test depends on mostly on the deadline and not on the budget, because it's when you work with senior developers, it's not something that is time consuming. Okay, I'm talking about unit tests. Okay, there are other kind of tests that are very, very time consuming, but unit tests, it's not about budget. It's about time. It's about you know, external pressure. So I don't think that unit tests it's related to contracts. Perhaps test driven could be seen as you know, overkill
for example,
sometimes.
When you are paid by the time, by the hour, by the day, actually I've been bothered. I've been asked not to write tests because I had to use that time to write new features. So basically, I call it, there is a very famous word in Bologna, which is umarell, in which you have like, umarell is a person who watches a work in progress in the road and express bad judgments on the way they are carry on the work. So actually, time and material contracts, they transform our customers in umarell because they are entitled to question the way we use our time to create value for them. And so, for example, if they don't understand clearly the meaning and the value, the long-term value of automated tests, for example, they start asking you to save time writing tests and start writing for features. And that's why I was wondering whether you observed something similar in your past.
Yeah, I observed it, but more with, for example, TDD, because TDD sometimes it could be time consuming because you are exploring an art domain, so you are writing the test before the code, and you know all the liturgy behind TDD. But most of the time I see this problem with other kind of tests like end-to-end testing. This is very, very time consuming. Okay, so it's the first thing that you don't do if you work with time and material contract, because you have one day just to test a feature that the product owner can test on his own or with a Q&A department.
Yeah. All in all, if we, I think it's time that we introduce decision making is clear. I mean, everybody has a definition of decision making, and Francesco's book probably is exploring this concept from his own perspective. Just not to take for granted that everybody here knows extreme contracts, I should introduce them, and I will take these 3 minutes to do it. So the point is, for all the reasons that we discussed so far in these first 20 minutes or so, in like 10 years ago, I realized while working with my own company that traditional contracts were not suitable for the kind of the kind of work I was delivering. Okay, I was helping mostly startuppers or high volatility scenarios in which requirements for my software, for the software we had to develop, were changing quite often, quite frequently, and so we were facing two possible choices: to keep on complaining about customers changing requirements, which is something that I hear quite often, even from Agile practitioners, which, I mean, it's quite, I would say, quite surprising. And instead, I started wondering what the root cause for this stress were. So what was basically causing me the problems that I was tempted to complain about. So I identified two clusters of customers. So the ones who were easy to negotiate with, and the ones that were asking for quotations and contracts and red paper and paperwork and blah 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 blah. And so I started identifying what characteristics all the good agreements had with those that were actually working the way we want in a very informal way. And I distilled 8 principles, and I decided to call them extreme contracts as an homage to be paid to Ken Beck's extreme programming. So extreme programming is the agile way to build software that I was following back in 2005, something like that. And Ken Beck's philosophy was, okay, what if we bring everything that makes software easy to develop to the maximum level? So like delivering from every at the time it was like delivering every 1 year and going down to every 6 months. It works, so why don't we bring it down to 1 month? It works, so why don't we bring it down to 1 week and 1 day and many times per day? So according to this philosophy, I decided, okay, let's see what happens if we shape contracts according to what works when a contract and agreement is made in a fine way, and we bring it to the extreme. And so I distilled these 8 principles, which I can list briefly. So, and I mean, we could play this game. I can tell you one of the 8 principles, and then you tell me your opinion about how it relates to decision making in general, so that we can somehow abstract the concept.
Yeah.
So the first principle of the 8 is skin in the game. So basically the overall point is we want the parties involved in an agreement to share suffering from loss and enjoying victories. Maybe not in equal parts, but like, let's say I'm an engineer, I'm sorry, I think in vectors, but the arrow has to be pointed in the same direction. So we have to share the losses of a defeat and the gains of a victory. If I help you to build, I'm a developer, and if I help you to build a successful product, why don't we share the merits at least, or whatever? So basically I want to have a positive incentive for helping you out, and I have to have a negative incentive for being a problem to you. So I think this is one of the most important principles for extreme contracts. If we make an agreement, what do you think about it?
Yeah. Okay. You put me in a strange situation, because I'm trying to not talk about how we use extreme content in flowing.
No, why not? I think you should. I mean,
because
people out there are going to say, okay, but this is fine. This is theory. This is blah blah blah. You talk about high systems, but what about real life?
Okay.
For me, it's different. So let's talk about real life. So flowing is an existing company, right?
Yeah. I have the shirt here. So okay.
The shirt is not enough to prove it existing.
No. Okay. My money comes from flooring. So if it doesn't exist, I have a problem. So
that's the proof.
That's my proof. Okay. So and I will explain how this relates to decision making for developers. Okay. So we use a contract derived from your book. Okay. I think that you created it together with also Strategy at the time, the one of the company that formed Flowing, this kind of contract, where we work with a 1 week sprint, where we decide together with the client what we are going to deliver in that week for a fixed price every week. Okay, so every sprint has a fixed price, and every week the team should decide together with the client what that sprint will contain for a specific value, not for a specific time. The client does not know how much time we work. They just know what they will pay. So all the negotiation is about value and not time. And that's exactly the point of the skin in the game and how this is related to decision making. Because when you work with a one sprint week, you are not making an estimation, you are making a promise. You are saying, I'm commit as a team to build this stuff for you in a week.
Okay.
The fact that it's a promise, so it's a very hard boundary, it's a skin in the game. It follows the skin in the game principle, because if one of our teams,
if you fail, you don't get paid, basically.
It's exactly. Or we need to work a lot. We need to work a lot of time. If we never fail, okay? It actually never occurred. But what can happen is that we work the double of the time that we are paid, for example.
Yeah. Actually, someone will say here, but I saw you're going to work for free for 1 week, maybe for 2 weeks or whatever. And this goes back to, okay, you're putting skin in the game, but how can you afford to put this skin in the game? It would be back to another principle, which we call chaos. I call it chaos in small doses. So basically, this goes straight to risk management. We cannot control the return of our investments, but we can control our investments. And so if we invest too much in a contract, in an agreement, all at once, we are exposing ourselves to a risk that we may never come back from. Tell Rico.
So I'll kindly interrupt you because we had the first, well, 2 questions actually. I guess
before you ask them, Francesco and I, we will grant ourselves the right to answer after a while.
After the advertisement, no, that's not.
What are the questions?
So, Cristina, thanks for being here. We also have a nice story from her that I will share later on. Actually, I guess the question is for me, but I missed the point somehow. Strange. How come? So, the what? You were referring to the what at some point?
Francesco, maybe.
Yeah.
Me?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, Cristina has the time to clarify on this.
Yeah, we are eager to answer your question, but we need to.
It's for me. It's for me.
For you.
The what you mean? Okay. What the sprint will contain? Okay, it's part of the negotiation. Okay, every week we negotiate with the product owner a bunch of user stories, if you want. Okay, it's then in the end it's like that. That will convince the client to pay for that fixed price. On the other hand, we have to be sure that we can commit to build that stuff in 1 week, or we are not getting paid, like Jacopo was saying. So this is the what, okay? It's what we are going to deliver in that week, and we will negotiate it every time. And sometimes it's also hard negotiation with the customer.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll
hopefully
go to
we
the
answered.
second one. If Cristina, if you need more clarification, of course, we are here. Claudio, hi Claudio. So, would you make an example of application of the first principle that would work for a contract between companies, and how to measure victory versus defeat?
Okay. Let me give you an example of when it's not like this. Okay, and then I will build on this example. So, I'm pretty sure that everybody has faced at least the menace, the threat of not being paid as much as agreed because of delivering late. Okay, sometimes they ask for paying the customer. When you deliver software later than as per agreed, you basically say, okay, I will not pay you, which could be fine, or I will pay you less, which could be fine again. So, but everybody takes for granted that nobody will be ever paid more for delivering earlier, especially if we are delivering software on a hourly billing or daily billing or whateverly billing. So that actually this asymmetry is basically what I'm talking about. So how can we fix this? We don't have to go as extreme as Flowing's contracts that Francesco has just mentioned, but maybe we can do like let's say that we have a fixed price contracts, okay? So we have a fixed deadline, fixed budget, very traditional, but we can add a little bit of skin in the game just by adding a reward if we finish before the deadline, and a light penalty if we finish after the deadline. And this will force everybody to deliver earlier than the deadline if we are able to do this. Especially, and this is the key point, if the reward is not higher, not bigger, than the advantage, the benefit that the customer will perceive by having an early delivery. So basically, if releasing software 2 months ahead, 1 week ahead is worth 2,000 euros for the customer, I'm assuming we can calculate it. I mean, I'm trying to keep it brief, but the point is that if it's worth 2,000 euros, then you can ask 500 euros, 1,000 euros as a share of that pie. I mean, hopefully I've answered to Claudio.
Cool. Thanks, both of you. And well, we'll see. There's time for more questions, of course. There's another one by Giuseppe. I'll read that, and then I think we can carry on with what we had in mind to do. Does the customer make a PO of his team available to you?
This is for me, I think. Yes.
No, I mean, this is too much linked to one of the principles. So I think we should postpone this answer when we will talk about talking to the grinder rather than the monkey. But that's for later. So Claudio, thanks to you. What else? So we were talking about cows in small doses, right? We had started talking about this. So Flowing can afford to work for free for 1 week. And that's why and the reason why is that you are working for just 1 week, right? And 1 week is a time that you are allowing yourself to see completely destroyed by not delivering or seeing the customer disappear, because you can afford working 1 week for free. If it sounds surprising to the audience that is listening to us, I would say, have you ever been 1 week late on a fixed price deadline? Yes. You know what? That is 1 week free work as a gift to your customer. So you already have coped with that. And so the point is that if we expose ourselves to a capped cost, to a capped risk, to a capped loss that we can afford, everything is fine. Is there any other chance to give the audience an example of a capped loss, Francesco? In anywhere else? I mean, in the life of a coder.
The life of the coder. Okay, it's.
Or maybe how can you use it? These small doses, cows in small doses principle with Flowing. I think, for example, TDD is something like that. I mean, you cap the maximum loss of code that you write before you have a green pass.
Okay, right.
And then you can basically do what, I mean, the cycle is always like that. You write the test, you write every code that make the test pass, even the ugliest code, and then you refactor it. But you can afford to write bad code in that case, because you are capping the cost, capping the risk of bad code with a test.
Or we use the same approach also when we work with startuppers. Okay, they have very, very small budget, and then we build the most ugly code that we can just to deliver on time, because we have a capped risk at the time. You don't have to spend more money that you have, but with that money, we need to try to understand as much stuff as possible, and then perhaps throw it away. It's similar to on a bigger scale.
Yeah, and exactly, this opens up to a huge conversation about technical debt and how you can use technical debt to increase the quality of your business if you are ready to pay back the debt after a while. I mean, and it's too much for today. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's exactly the point. So basically, we can deliver bad code as long as we are delivering it in small chunks that can be fixed soon, after not after years, when they are going to strike back on our strategy as a product or as a service.
Or thrown away. Okay, there is another. Also, this is something to do.
Value thrown away is always striking back. I mean, so basically, you have spent tons of money and time on something, and then you throw it away. What? It doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense, but it can be much better than that. Now, let's go to Giuseppe's question, and he's asking, does the customer make a product owner of his team available to you? I love this. So I will tell you what the principle is about, and then Francesco, you can share your experience. But okay, I name it talk to the grinder. It comes from the English saying that you should talk to the grinder playing in the street, and not to the monkey begging for the money. It's an image that comes from, basically, I think from some Dickens book or that era basically. So okay, fine. So with this principle, I mean that the best collaborations are when you are negotiating with those people who are in charge to decide for real, with an end-to-end effect on your collaboration. So basically, those who can pay you in the end, those who can decide, okay, let's push this red button that says bank transfer, and you got the money. Okay, when you get the money, you have the validation that your delivery was accepted. So I don't know how this relates with decision making in general, but I mean, after we have heard your opinion on this, Francesco, we can answer Giuseppe. I have a nice story to tell about this. Teaser.
Okay, now I'm curious. I can't concentrate on the question. But first of all, to answer Giuseppe, yes, we have a product owner on every contract that we send to our clients. It's mandatory, because we need somebody that has the power to say, this I will pay for this stuff. Okay, without that, because the skin in the game without this particular point is too high for us, because we can build something for weeks. Everybody will say, oh, okay, it's cool, and then after 2 months, somebody can tell, okay, I will not pay for that. So it's mandatory to have somebody that has power to spend the money on the table. Without that, we are not working on any project. How this relates to... Sorry.
No, you finish. You finish.
Okay. How this relates to decision making is that if you are not talking to the grinder, like Jacopo was saying, you are making assumptions and not decisions, because you don't have real feedback with hard money. An example could be you create a very, very complex architecture because your touch point with the company is a CTO, for example, or a very technical product owner. So they are in love with a very, very complex architecture and microservices based on Kotlin and Scala, whatever you want. And then when you need to be paid, somebody just say, it could have been done with WordPress. That's the point. If you are not talking with somebody that actually can pay you hard money, you are making assumptions. Assumptions are dangerous from an engineering point of view.
And I would add, if it could be made with WordPress, it should have been made with WordPress. I mean,
Amen.
I mean, we are not selling our code we are selling our automation. This is a key point. We are selling the analysis of a problem and a solution that gets automated and executed by silicon rather than by human beings. That's what we are doing as software developers.
Exactly.
So we want to write the list code. This would open up the argument. I think there is room for another meetup about no code movement. I strongly support it. Francesco, your turn.
Yeah, I was just saying that as developers, you know that you try to work on hard stuff. Your mind working that way as an engineer, okay? It's not easy to understand that if it's doable with WordPress, it's a good thing to do that. So talking with who manage the money can keep you on, on the rails. You can keep focused on the outcome and not on the output, and not on the code, and not on architectures and so on, but always focused on the outcome. It's it's like an insurance for you. Okay, if you only talk to technical people, you probably will take over-engineered technical decision most of the time. Yeah. I do the same thing. Okay, it's how we are built, I think.
So back to the product owner question, I think it's nice that you are creating another kind of product owner. You are creating a product owner that has a wallet. So basically, the product owner is not just someone that is a puppet in the hands of those who pay, but actually is the person or the group of people that pay. Having a PO like that was so important in the past that when I used a contract which was very similar to the one you're using, extreme contracts are a family of contracts, okay? Every person that stick to those 8 principles is an extreme contracts practitioner, okay? When I was using a contract similar to the one that you're using in Flowing, it was a very similar instance. Having a committed product owner was so important for us that actually we decided, listen, because it's nice, it's a nice story. So basically we were saying, Enrico, you are my customer and I need a PO to follow my project, as Francesco said. And Enrico said, well, but yes, I have this person, he has or she has, they have 1 hour per day. I hope they answer your phone call. I mean, they will be available in their spare time. No. Wait. I need a product owner to tell me if I've done the right job every week or not. So this was my proposal. Hey, Enrico, I pay you a given amount of, a few thousands of euro every week to get your product owner to work for us. So basically I was saying the salary of the person you're going to give us on your side is going to be paid by us, which may sound counterintuitive, but actually it's nothing else than applying a discount to your weekly fee to have someone to care about you. But if you propose a discount, actually you're begging for their attention. And instead, if you pay for their product owner to work for you, actually you are paying for them. So you can ask and you can claim their attention, which is a completely different framing of the problem. And I think it resonates a lot with what Francesco was saying. I hope it's enough for answering Giuseppe. And Giuseppe wants to know also the date of the other meetup. Okay. Enrico will let you know. Now, let's go on with the list of principles. If you're going.
Let's do one more list, one more item, and then we have another question from Badum. But let's carry on with the list.
Okay, sure. So let me read Vazum questions so that I may be influenced in my choice. Okay, so value-centered. This is one of the 8 principles of extreme contracts. Value-centered means that we mentioned a few moments ago this. So we don't sell the code, we sell the value of that code. if anybody knows in the audience the business model canvas, you know that the key activity and the key resources are not the value proposition, okay? In other words, for those who don't know the business model canvas, that means that you're selling the solution to a problem, and so you should be giving love to the problem somehow. You should give love to the depth of the problem rather than to a specific solution. And so we want to focus our agreements not on the delivery, but on the disappearing problem that we will, the disappearance. How can I say disappearance? The disappearing, the vanishing of the problem.
Vanishing,
so
okay, vanishing.
The vanishing of the problem. So that's what we're selling. So I don't know. This attention, this also can be framed as a difference between output and outcomes. Okay, and so I don't know how in decision making how does this relate with your book, and you are going to tell us in a few seconds. But this is a key point to prepare the answer for Vasum's question.
Okay. For example, I talk about outcome and output when talking about what I call a shared meaning of quality. Because if you're talking to developers and you talk about quality, okay, you have their mind, to blow, because they think about performances, they think about testability. So when you talk about outcome and not output, is to be sure that everyone is on the same page when you're talking about quality. Just to make an example, I helped a team a couple of years ago. No, sorry, it's way more time, because it was before the COVID, so it's 4 years ago, to choose, for example, the next front-end framework they need to use for a bigger factory. Every person in the team was focused on the performances. And if you are not aware about front-end frameworks, we are talking about differences of milliseconds, okay, for very, very complex pages, okay? So basically, they were talking about nothing important, in my opinion. And to demonstrate it, I called at the table their customer support manager. And I asked them if in the last 15 years, because this software is online for 15 years, anybody talked about performances in their clients, in any email, in any angry phone call, and they answered nobody. So I said, okay, stop talking about performances. Talk about the real problems that you need to solve. Performances are in influence. Talk about other stuff. And this is about value, about outcome, okay, and about moving away from technicalities that it's so hard to do for developers. It's hard for me, so I think it's hard also for other developers.
Ok, sentiamo. Qual è la domanda? Sorry, switch back to English. We can. What's the question? What's some questions, Enrico?
So that's what happens when Jacopo is in a familiar environment. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Switching to Italian. Okay, so Vasum's question: how do we calculate the week's fixed price? Is the price per week different each time, depending on complexity or something? How do clients react to this pricing model?
Jacopo, can I try to answer the way we do that in Flowing, and then I can leave
you. This is a question for you. This is a question for you because it's mentioned in your example. So
okay.
Just listen.
The price is fixed for every week, it's not depending on complexity, okay? And is decided from two factors in our case. The first one is it came from a product discovery that we make at the beginning of the project, because we need to understand the boundaries, okay? We need to understand if you are talking about a 1 month product or a 2 years product. Okay, so we need to do some kind of estimation and do some kind of framing of the problem. So we know that we need, I don't know, 15, 20 weeks. Okay, then we take a look at what are the people that we need to solve this problem. We need 2 developers, 1 cloud architect, and UX designer, 2 mobile developers, and so on. And then we have our cost. Okay, this is our cost. This is our skin in the game. So it's how much we can lose, okay, like Jacopo said. And we create the price based on the maximum effort that we can afford to lose in 1 week. And this is balanced with an average amount of value that we can bring to the client in 1 week. So it's a mix of how much work we had to do, how much cost we can actually afford to lose in a week, and of course the people that we needed to solve that particular problem. Okay, that can this is important, that can change during the process. For example, we have sometimes in some project we have a dual track agile. Okay, when we have the learning and the delivery phase. There is Giuseppe made an assumption. I would like to answer that later. Okay, if the price is all week, the speed it's the same as all week. No, the effort that we can lose it's the same, not the effort that we can actually spend all weeks. It's completely unrelated, because if you talk about speed, you are talking about time. Okay, because speed it's based on time. And we don't talk about time with that kind of contract. We talk about, is the stuff that I'm promising to deliver to you enough to for you to pay the fixed price? So it's not related to speed. It's related about.
It's not even related to effort, actually, as you said. So it's related to the value that you're delivering. So
exactly.
If you can deliver tons of value by like turning a wheel just because you have already prepared something in the past, then you can sell that value. And even if the effort is very little, then it's fine. Is it right?
Yeah, the effort is about not the price, but what we can lose. Okay, because we can lose 1 effort of work for us. It was about skin in the game.
Yeah.
And returning to the value, this put a lot of a different light, for example, on testing, because if you work with a very, very good unit test base, you can actually do the turn-on problem that you say, I can solve very big problem in very, very small time.
Yeah.
But the value for the client, it's the same. So it actually gives us a lot of boost where we need to do that from a money point of view.
An interesting framing of this same algebra is this. Every time you set a fixed price for something, you're betting against yourself that that price is not too high for you to somehow walk the talk, to deliver enough value to justify the price. So let's go to the extreme. If I tell you, hey, Enrico, I'm going to deliver you something for €0. I mean, that's going to be a win for sure. I mean, I can deliver nothing and still be delivering as much as the price. Cool. What if I tell you, hey, Enrico, I will deliver you $10 million in 1 week? I mean, that's possible, but it's a much harder challenge to develop so much value in just 1 week. From 0 to 10 millions, there is a number in between in which you feel comfortable that you can do it, and still the customer will feel like they're getting enough for what they're paying. Enrico stood up to close the call.
No, not yet.
Okay.
It was the right time though. I'm waiting for my million. That's why. No, I'm joking.
Let me
so
just have the bank transfer.
yeah, do it now. Well, actually, yes, we are kind of about closing time. Thanks, Francesco and Jacopo, for being with us today. If there's any last-minute questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we can find Francesco and Jacopo in Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere, really. I copied the links that we agreed on before, like the Jacopo's talk at Kandididinsky and Francesco's book and workshop. So if you want to look up, some additional resources, you can do that. I'll also include, let's see, we have some comments. Oh, yes. Yes, let's go with Christina's question to close off. Right, so we are talking about value, not features. We might bring value or not. Don't you constrain yourself by deciding from the start who will work on that project? What about discovering on later? Solving the problem could be done differently. And then we have Dio Brando, which it's amazing. Thanks for that nickname. We'll read that in a second. So Christina first, and then Dio Brando, and then we close.
Okay. Yes, it's right, Christina. We'll not decide from the start. We decide from the weeks that we can look in the fix the next 1 month, 2 months. Okay, a time that we know usually what we need. The truth is that every week then we calibrate what people work on the sprint based on what we actually have to do to bring value. Sometimes it's completely unrelated to delivery. It's completely about learning. It's about user research, for example. And so for us as flowing as an ecosystem, it could be a problem because we can have developers that they don't know what to do on that particular project. Okay, but it's a risk that we make lighthearted because we love this kind of work. So we don't decide upfront who works on the project, but we try to make a price, because the price is a part of what we can lose. Okay, it's what we can lose in 1 week based on an average week. Okay, sometimes it's completely unrelated to delivery. It's about, for example, user research. Sometimes it's about, for example, infrastructure. Put something that scale because we had more clients our client has more user than expected, so they have to put something on AWS that scale up. So it's about cloud engineering and not about specific software delivery. So we manage together with the client in the mix that Jacopo was talking about. Okay, so we can afford to not work as delivery but as user research, and it's probably the thing that vary the most the client in that specific sprint or week.
So I mean, if we define value as anything that you can deliver that will change the way your customer makes business, even if you die the day after, that's a fair delivery. So user research is enabling them to define their specification for another software development company. Yes, the answer is yes. So that's an honest delivery. You can deliver your user research as a first sprint, and then you can fade out of the scene, and they will be using that value to build upon it, and that's enough.
Yeah. Another example for Christina, sometimes when we see that our backlog is foggy, okay, that our PO does not know what have to do to solve, to reach an outcome, we also do some product discovery during the process, during the work, to explore some big feature, and that clarity is value enough for them to pay us sometimes. It's very valuable, and we don't deliver anything if not knowledge, if you want, if not clarity.
Cool. I'll go on with the last one by Dio Brando, and off we go. So, regarding estimates, we know it is a complex topic, especially in agile methodologies. How are you able, in whatever business domain, to be able to estimate and be in profit with this fixed price philosophy? There's another comment by Dio Brand again. I mean, you must be pretty confident to be able to deliver that value with the price and effort in mind, not knowing anything at all, possibly of the domain. How do you handle the risk?
As long as you lower the price enough to feel comfortable, that's the right price. I mean, if you're not confident enough that you will be able to deliver that value with a given price, just lower the price, and it will be easier to get accepted, to get the acceptance from the customer, by the customer, sorry, from the customer, I don't know. So as Vasum is writing, as I understand it, it is calculated so that the loss for a sprint is factored in as an acceptable risk. So the point is, you can lower the price until they feel it and judge it acceptable for what you are feeling confident that you will be able to deliver. Obviously, it's a bet, but it's a one-week bet. And we go back to Francesco's point and the cows in small doses point principle, so that if you cut the loss, everything is fine. We should work in units that we can see blowing up completely. That's the point.
I try to add something to Dio Brando question. It's not about to being confident. It's completely the opposite. We are not confident about our estimation, so we don't put them in our contracts. I make an example for you, Dio Brando. After a product discovery, we estimate that for building a product, we need 100,000 euros, okay? We don't make a fixed price contract for 100,000 euros, but we make 50 contracts of 2,000 euros. If you take, because we are not confident with the estimation, this is just a budget for the client. So we start to say, okay, let's start working together. We think that you will need 50 weeks. And then for every week, the product owner or whatever they want from the company can decide the direction to give to the trip, because I think that is a voyage that we are to make with our clients, okay? I hate to say, because from an entrepreneurship point of view, it could be a failure, but we say that we need 50 weeks. Sometimes in 25 weeks, the project is done. It's not done by the idea of the product owner. It's done because it's working enough to stop for a moment. But the keys are in the PO's hand. So it's important for the PO to be there and, okay, blah, 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 like we said. So it's not about being confident. It's about feeling completely unconfident of the estimation. So it's completely the opposite. I hope that I answered your question.
Excellent. So, well, that was a lot of interaction. So thanks everyone who took the time to not only be with us, but also contribute a lot. That's always appreciated. Thanks, Jacopo and Francesco. It was great to have you again, and we'll see you next time. So we have other 2 meetups coming up. One is on the 10th of November with GPAT, Gianluca Padovani, on microservices. That will be in Italian. But then we close with a very nice surprise on the 24th of November. If you subscribe to the channel, you get notified when we publish a new video. We are also on Meetup, where you probably heard about this. And for the rest, thanks a lot. Have a nice evening or afternoon, wherever you are, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Avanscoperta.
Woo-hoo!